Yeah, good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening. You are welcome to the Azure Nigeria Community West African Studies Series. You are all welcome. I hope you are ready to learn this evening because this evening we have an amazing speaker who is going to be taking us through the series of the Azure Developer AZ204. And I believe you are ready. Just make sure you have your notes, have your pen, make sure you pen something down. And when you have any question, make sure you put your question in the comment box. I just want you to just wherever you're connecting from, or just make us know, just let us know, just put it in the comment section. If you are from Nigeria, United Kingdom, US, Canada, Italy, just let us know at the comment section. So I believe tonight you are ready to learn. And I just want you to make sure that you follow all the series because it's going to prepare you for the exam, the AZ204 exam. So make sure you get ready, make sure you get set. Our speaker for today is Promise. Promise is a Microsoft Azure most valuable professional and MVP. That's an amazing one. Come on, give her a hand of applause for that one. Just clap for him. Wow, it's not easy to be an MVP. And a proficient senior Azure DevOps consultant with over a decade of experience creating innovative solutions for the financial sector and IT industry. He feels comfortable interacting with stakeholders, customers, and technical team to design, implement, and maintain security structure and help businesses create robust and efficient solution. He's also an active leader of the Azure Nigeria Community West Africa. What an amazing profile. So tonight, quickly, we want to go into and don't forget that tonight we are going to be learning on how to create the Azure block storage resources, manage data through the block storage lifecycle, and working with containers and items by using the Azure block storage client library version 12.4.net. So please make sure you pen something that I bet you are going to learn something from this amazing speaker. I've known this speaker for a very while, so he knows his craft. So make sure you get your pen down. Make sure, especially if you know you are preparing for this exam, make sure you pay attentively and definitely you will pick up something tonight. Okay, so
All
quickly
right.
inviting Promise on stage.
Thank you very much, Opeyemi. What a wonderful introduction.
It's nice seeing you. Amazing.
Yes,
Wow, wow.
yes, yes,
Good, good.
yes.
That's fine. So tonight,
Well,
what do you have for us? I hope you are prepared to dish out everything we need to prepare for this exam. Because I believe some people watching us tonight will definitely be preparing for this AZ204 exam. And yeah, so
yes, definitely. I'm prepared for the evening. I think the main purpose of the course or the topic I have to take today is just to give a brief intro on what's like to make use of a storage account in Azure, and what
mhm.
are some few important properties that the storage account in Azure has. And probably we are going to see how it is possible to design to host a static website on the Azure storage account. So I mean, these are
Wow.
few things that we intend to look at today, and hopefully we should be able to cover up everything.
Yeah, yeah, hopefully. Amazing. All right. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. That's
All
good.
right. Okay then. Okay. Thank you very much, Opeyemi, for such a wonderful welcome. And I'm going to be proceeding now with the lecture for today. So, like he rightfully mentioned, um, My name is Promise Uche Nwachukwu. I'm a Microsoft Most Valuable Professional. Most people know it as MVP, right? And I mean, one of the things we derive pleasure in doing is sharing our knowledge and, helping people to cross those boundaries that have, probably held them down for a while, and provide some deep understanding into, the curriculum we have in Azure. All right, so I'm going to be proceeding to the next slide, which basically gives a self to bio about me. I believe Opeyemi has read all this, but I just wanted to point your attention to the fact that you can reach me on LinkedIn using the link here, and then you can also reach me on Twitter at promise underscore Uche, right? Uchey, yeah, Uche. All right, so I'm gonna be proceeding on the session for today, and like I said, today I just want to briefly touch down on some of these very important criteria, like, everybody probably has the idea of what a storage account is, but maybe we don't have that full knowledge, right? Or probably you have some things missing in the process, and you're wondering, oh, how do I go about this? What do I do about this? And that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to help, provide some form of guidance towards, you know, all of this, so that you have a better clarity on what the Azure storage is all about. So I'm going to be giving an intro on the Azure storage. We're going to explore Azure Blob storage. We're going to discover Azure Blob storage resource types, and then we are going to explore Azure storage security features, and then lastly we'll discover static website hosting in Azure Storage. And I do hope to see if I can, do a short practical session to show you how to host or how to do a static hosting of a website in using Azure Storage. All right. Basically, we all know that the Azure Blob Storage is Microsoft Object Storage solution for the cloud. Yeah, this is the solution that Microsoft has provided for storing things in the cloud, right? And the blob storage is one that is optimized for storing massive amounts of unstructured data. So we're going to be looking at what the blob storage is. What do we mean by unstructured data, right? Okay. Now, when we say explore Azure Blob Storage, you might be wondering, what do we mean, right? What do we mean by exploring Azure Blob Storage? I think the idea is just to give a better understanding on what the Azure Blob Storage is all about. Now, one of the a few of the reasons why the Blob Storage was designed was, for one, to be able to save images or documents directly to your browser. Two, to be able to store files for distributed access. Distributed access in the sense that, people could be in various parts of the world and still have access to that particular file or document which you have. Three, for streaming video and audio. So take for instance, now you have some video stored somewhere which you would like to stream, right? Now, Microsoft has created this solution for you so that you could be able to stream your video or stream your text, however way, whichever one pleases you. Another reason why the blob storage was designed was for writing to log files. Say, for instance, you're running a particular application, right? And you want to be able to take log of the application, probably when people access the application, what file was accessed in the application, what commands were run while the application was being accessed, all of those logs could be accumulated, and then you'll be wondering, where do I store these logs? Where do I keep these logs? A good one would be, to just push them to your Azure storage account. That's one place you could, store your log files. Another reason why the blob storage was designed was for storing of data for backup, restore, disaster recovery, and archiving. So, take for instance, now you're running a database, right? And then you want to be able to do a regular backup of your database. So, you can do your regular backup of your database, right, and back it directly to the storage account. And then you can also restore this database from your storage account to whatever database server which you would like to restore them in. Another thing again which the storage blob or the blob storage was designed was to store data for analysis by an on-premise or Azure hosted service. Say, for instance, you want to be able to store data, you want to be able to do some analysis on your data and all of that, right? One way which you can do that is to, you can actually store your data in the storage account, and then from there you can be able to provide analysis to that particular data. All right, moving ahead. Basically, I would say there are two major types of storage accounts, right? I would say there are two basically types of storage accounts. The first one being the standard, right? And the second one being the premium, right? So the way I would categorize these types of storage account, I will categorize them under, say, performance levels. So basically, there are two performance levels of storage accounts, which is the standard and the premium, right? And each of the performance levels, they support different features, right? And each of them have their own pricing model, right? So I mean, you're wondering, right? What do I mean by each of them have their pricing model? What do I mean by performance level? So generally, the standard storage account is basically known as that general purpose V2 storage account. And if you would take note, this is the most recommended type of the storage account, right? This is the most recommended, or is recommended because this is what people use for most scenarios. So this is what people use basically for most scenarios. And then there's the premium performance, right? The premium performance level, this offers a higher performance, of course, because of the word premium, right? By using solid state drives. So um the premium what's it called? The premium performance level uses solid state drives. And of course, those of you who have drives, SSD drives on your laptops will know that a solid state drive will definitely perform better than an HDD drive. You understand? It will definitely perform better than an HDD drive. So for the premium type, you see, you can actually create three basic types, which is the block blobs, the page blobs, or file shares. These are the types of storage accounts you can create under premium. Sorry about that. These are the types of storage accounts that you can actually create under premium. Now, there are also basic scenarios when making use of these three types of storage accounts, which I've explained to you. So, for the general purpose storage account, right? One of the things you want to or you would notice is that this standard storage account is mostly used for blobs, file shares, queues, and tables. right? And like I told you, it is recommended for most scenarios using the blob storage or one of or other storage. So you can actually use the blob storage, or you can mix it with some or any of the other services like the file shares, the queues, or the tables, right? Now, for the block blobs, remember we said the block blobs are under the premium performance levels, right? This type of storage account, right? We can also refer to them as append blobs, and they are recommended for scenarios where we have high transaction rates or that use smaller objects or require consistently low storage latency, right? So that is a kind of storage account you will create when you need a very low, sorry about that. This is a type of storage account you will create when you need a very low storage account latency. Now, for the page blobs, this is another premium kind performance level kind of storage account, right? For page blobs only. So the page blob kind of storage account is meant for only page blobs, right? But the block blobs, right? The block blob storage account can be used for both block blobs and what append blobs, right? So that's one of the major differences between the block blob and the page blob, and then also the general purpose V2, right? Which is what many people use in most scenarios. Now, another thing to talk about is the access tier for block blobs data. So you're wondering, what do I mean by access tier? Of course, you know that um, the various type of accounts which I have just mentioned here will include how these storage accounts are accessed. Now, how these storage accounts are accessed is what is being categorized into the access tier for the block blob data. So, I mean, sorry about that. I mean, let's say you are making use of a storage account which you regularly, you access often, you access regularly, right? And let's say you're making use of a storage account which you access regularly. The kind of tier that storage account will fall under would be what the hot access tier, right? Now, what of, for instance, where you don't need to access that storage account, regularly? Now you can come to the cool access tier, right? This basically is for storing large amount of data that are infrequently accessed and stored for at least 30 days. That's the minimum, 30 days, right? The cool tier has lower storage limit and higher access costs compared to what the hot tier. Also, we have a third amount of tier, which is the archive tier. Now, this archive tier is basically available only for individual block blobs, right? And what it basically does is that it helps you to optimize your data, right? It helps you to optimize your data, and at the same time, it's more cost effective for storing data, right? But accessing the data is more expensive than accessing the data in the hot or cool tiers. So you can store data in the archive tier for a longer period, but then it might be difficult to access this. Not really difficult, but let me say more expensive accessing this data in the archive tier and than in the hot tier and in the cool tier. Reason is that it will be more expensive, really more expensive to be able to do that. Yeah, please just give me a minute. All right. So yes, so like I was saying, so those are basically the various types of access tiers that you get from your storage account. And those access tiers help to categorize how we are able to access our data which we store in the storage account. All right. Now I think we move on to how do we discover Azure Storage Blob resources and their types, right? How do you discover Azure Storage Blob resource types? I mean, you'll be wondering, what do we mean by discovering Azure Storage Blob resource types? So basically, your storage account, right, is made up of like three basic resources. One, the storage account itself, a container in the storage account, and a blob in the container. So you see the down part, the way it's going down, right? First of all, you have the storage account. Second, you have the container, and third, you have the blob, which is inside of the container, right? So that's how each of them are enclosed. Now, the storage account itself provides you with like a unique namespace in Azure for your data, right? So that every object that you store in the Azure storage has an address that includes your unique storage account. Now, the combination of the account name, the Azure Storage Blob endpoint, forms the base address for the objects in the storage account. So when it combines both your storage account and the container and all of that, the base address for your object is being generated. For example, you would hear people say http my storage account dot blob dot core dot windows dot net, right? And then the name of the container, say the name of the container is uchechi, right, slash the name of the blob file itself, right? So that's just how the storage account is being broken down into. Now you would also be wondering, what do we mean by the containers? Well, the container, basically what it does is to organize a set of blobs or similar directories in a file system, right? A storage account in itself can include an unlimited number of containers, right? The storage account in itself can include an unlimited number of containers, and a container can store an unlimited number of blobs. So you see how the breakdown is going. A storage account can contain unlimited number of containers, and inside of a container itself can contain unlimited number of blobs, right? So you can now see how each of them are interwoven. And for every container, it must have a valid DNS name, as it forms part of the unique URI used to address the container or its blobs. So you can see that container names can be between 3 to 63 characters long. Container names must start with what a number, can contain only lowercase numbers and a dash. Also, two or more consecutive dash characters aren't permitted in container names. So when you want to create a container, you have to take note of these guidelines, meaning that you can't have two or more of your dash, right, inside of the name of your container. But you can have that two or more, while creating your what's it called? You can have the dashes, while you want to, maybe let's say, add to your storage account name. You understand? That's if you prefer to do that, right? So, I mean, like I said, two or more consecutive dash characters aren't permitted in what? In container names. All right, now we'll go over to the blobs, and we will talk about the three types of blobs, and probably try to give some kind of definition to these three types of blobs. All right, permit me a second to take a bottle of water. Okay, so I mean, now we go over to blobs. I'm sure you may be wondering what are different types of blobs, and what do each of them mean. So the three types of blobs we have, what are the block blobs, the append blobs, and then the page blobs. Those are the basic three types of blobs we have: the block blob, the append blob, and the page blob. Right? The block blob can store both text and binary data. The append block are made up of block blobs, but are optimized for what? Append operations. While your page blob store random access files for up to what? 8 terabyte in size, right? And also, page blob store virtual hard drives files and serve as disk for what? Azure virtual machines. So I remember way back as 2018, when the Azure portal was still in, like, a progressive state. At the time, I remember, to create virtual machines then, you needed to make use of a page blob to be able to create virtual machines then. Unlike now, in scenarios here where we actually create virtual machines making use of a managed disk. But in those days, it was usually a page blobs which would use to create the virtual machines. All right, okay. Moving on to the next one, which is explore Azure storage security features. Now, this is one major one, and the reason why this is one major one, of course, you want to make use of the storage account. And for you to be able to make use of the storage account, you want to know what are the features, the security features that have been put in place in the storage account to provide you some form of security on the kind of data you are putting there, and how all of these policies or rules benefit to you, right? So you can see here, a storage account provides a comprehensive set of security capabilities that, together made, will enable developers to build secure applications, right? Now, while trying to explore the security features of the storage account, one of the things you can do is, you know, you can say, okay, all data, right? Okay, let's do this. Now, say for instance, right, you are provided with a comprehensive set of security capabilities that enable developers to build applications. Like, say, for instance, now you have all your Azure storage data automatically encrypted using what? Storage service encryption. So all the data which you have in your Azure storage are encrypted using what? Storage service encryption, right? You also have that the Azure Active Directory and rollback access control are supported for Azure storage, but both resource management operations and what? Data operations. Also, data can be secured in transit between an application and Azure by using a client-side application encryption, which is the HTTPS or SMB 3.0, and also can can OS can now remember I said here that when you are what's the word, in your data which you place in your storage account makes use of the SSE, the server side encryption. Now, your data itself, which is protected, with this server side encryption, also provides a way to securely transit between applications and Azure using the client side encryption. So let's say you want to move data between your application and Azure. You can then use the client side encryption, right? Also, OS and disk data used by Azure virtual machines can be encrypted using what? Azure disk encryption. Right. Now, also you can delegate access to the data objects in the Azure storage, right? Which will, in this case, be making use of the shared access signature. This way, you can delegate permissions to access, various data which you may have stored in the storage account. So now, looking into Azure storage encryption for data at rest, right? This is the process where your data, when it's persisting in the cloud, is being encrypted, right? The encryption itself protects your data and helps you meet your organization's security and compliance commitments. So that is why Azure has decided to take it upon themselves, to provide you some form of security of the data which we bring in into the Azure platform, right? So you can see here it says what storage accounts are encrypted regardless of their performance, whether it's standard or in premium, right? They are always what? Encrypted. Now, also for encryption key, the encryption key management which you use to encrypt data, one, you can either have a custom managed key, right? Or you can have a customer provided key, right? So what I mean what I mean by the encryption key management here is that, say for instance, you don't want to be in a scenario where you are the one in charge of managing your keys. So you can decide, okay, let me make use of the managed keys which Azure has provided for you, or you can bring in your keys, to serve to use for encrypting your data, right? And then give the necessary permissions which you would like to give in order to enable access to those data. All right, so you can see here, I wanted to show you this, right? Okay, so there are actually some differences, right, um, the between the key management for Azure Storage Encryption. So I said you have the Microsoft managed keys, you have the customer management managed keys, and then you have the custom provided managed keys, right? So basically, the difference between all of these three can be seen in, let me say, five various sections. One, encryption decryption operations. Azure storage service supported. key key storage, key rotation responsibility, key storage, right? Under these various sections, you can then see whether your Microsoft managed keys, your customer managed keys, or customer provided keys all align. So, for instance, now say for the Azure storage services, under the Microsoft managed keys, you can see that the Azure storage services, all of the Microsoft managed keys can work for that service. Now, for customer managed keys, you can only make use of blob storage and Azure files, right? And then for customer provided keys, you can then make use of what? Blob storage, right? So, I mean, these are the various ways which you can either manage your key or leave it for Microsoft to manage for you. Okay, so I mean, the next thing we are going to be looking at, um, let's see. All right, the next thing we are going to be looking at is Azure Storage Encryption Data at Rest. I think I'd basically spoken about this, and how your data at rest um, is being encrypted to be able to meet your security, or your organization's security policies, and how you can manage your encryption key, either by providing using Microsoft managed key, or providing your managed key, or the third one, which is your own customized key, right? So you can make use of any of those options for encrypting your data. And like I said here, right, you can specify a customer managed key or a customer provided key. And then also the last one is the Microsoft managed key. All right. Okay. So for me, I feel like the next thing we have to do now is talk about how do you discover static websites. Now, for me to be able to talk about this, one of the things I would like to do is basically to show you how do you even create a storage account. So what are the things needed while creating a storage account? What are the features you see? How do you specialize between these features? All of those things are what I would like to show you. And to do this, I'm going to be sharing my let me do this. To do this, I'm going to be sharing my browser. Yes, going to be sharing my browser to be able to do this. So I'll show you how this is done. All right. Let me share my screen. So if you look at here, you will see my browser, and this is just me going to, let me increase the size of the font so that you are able to see this. All right, so you can see here, here's my Azure portal, right? Sorry about that. As you can see here, here's my Azure portal. So I'm going to take you through the process of actually creating a storage account so that you can have a look, right? So, okay, these are all the storage accounts I have so far, but let me create one more so that you understand how the process is done. So basically, all you need to do is to, sign on to your portal.azure.com, right? You can then decide to click on storage account. So you can come here and then just click on what storage accounts. So once you see this, click on it, it should bring you to this screen. And the next thing you do is you say create, pick a subscription, pick a resource group, and then you can call the storage account any name. So I can say Uche Static Websites, right? That's what I want to call this storage account. I choose a region. I'm choosing standard. Remember, in terms of performance, we talked about the two basic types, which is the standard and the premium. And we said for the standard, you have general purpose V2, which is the most commonly used one, right? So I'm going to pick the standard. I'll go over to next. You can see here it says require secure transfer for REST API operations, allow enabling public access on individual containers, enabling storage account key access, and you can see a lot of functions here which you can enable. But for now, I don't want to enable any of this, like the SFTP or network. No, I don't want to do that. So all I'm going to do is just to leave everything as default, and I'm just going to move ahead. Now you can see for networking, I would say, okay, what I want to do is to enable public access from all networks, right? And then you can see, let Microsoft do the routing for me. And then I go into data protection and I click on enable soft delete, right? You understand? And basically, all of these are default. You can see enable soft delete for file shares, and you can see the days duration here is 7 days, right? So basically, also, even for your blobs, if you want to enable various versioning of your blobs, you can actually do that by clicking on the this enable versioning for the blobs, right? So that helps you to take in various versions of a particular blob. And you can see enable blood change feed, right? And then you can see here enable version level immutability support, right? So the next one is, the encryption. Remember, we spoke about the customer managed keys, Microsoft managed keys. We spoke about the customer provided keys, right? So, I mean, in this particular scenario, I'm going to be choosing the Microsoft managed keys, and you can see here it says enable support for customer managed keys, right? And I said I want for all services. So I want to enable the support for customer managed service managed keys for what all the services, right? And then I'll proceed onto to the tags and then onto the review. So let's wait while the review kicks in. Now you can see the review has kicked in, and then the next thing I'll do is to what create the storage account. So you can see now, that the storage account is actually um yeah, you can see the storage account is actually is being created as we speak. Yeah, let me see. Okay, now you can see it tells us that what the deployment is successful. Let me see if I could do something about this. Okay, so basically, it tells us that what the deployment is successful, right? So I mean, the next thing for us to do is to head over to what the resource itself. So I'll just click on this button here to head over to the resource, right? And you can now see this is my storage account, which has the name Uche Static Website, and you can see this is the resource group. You can see under Uchechi, the performance is what standard, replication is read access, geo redundant storage, right? Location is East US, and you can see all of this. So basically, these are the various features of the storage account, and you can see that some features are disabled, like the versioning is disabled, change field, NFS is disabled, and all of that. But then we have also some fields that are what enabled, like allow cross tenant replication, right? So the next thing I want to do now, remember the purpose of this is to show you how we can do like a static website hosting. That's the purpose of this, right? So I want to be able to show you how to do the static website hosting. So I want you to be able to see it. All right. So now the next thing we are going to do, just a moment, just a moment. Okay, 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 okay. Okay, so the next thing we are going to do right now is to enable the static website itself. That's the next thing we are going to do, right? So if you want to enable that, all you need do is to come under the data. No, you are going under the data management. So you see the section here called data management, right? And then you see static websites. So what you do is just go to the static website and then you click on what? Enable. So here, once you click on enable, it's going to ask you what do you want your index document name to be and what do you want your error document part to be. So here I can do something like say index, right, dot html, right, and here I can say 404.html. And once I do that, I'm going to just click on save. Now you can see that I've clicked on save, and I mean, it has provided me with um, my primary endpoint and my secondary endpoint, right? So, I mean, these are the endpoints that I'm going to use to be able to access this static website, right? So, I mean, the first thing you need to do, right, is just to copy the endpoints link, because you are going to need them to be able to access the static website. So the endpoints are, let me just keep this somewhere. This is the primary endpoint, and here's the secondary endpoint. Here is secondary endpoint. All right. Now, you might be wondering, okay, so what's the next thing to do? Now, look at this. It says enabling static website on Blob service allows you to host static content. Web pages may include static content, and client script. Server-side scripting is not supported as data is replicated as currently from primary to secondary regions. Files at the secondary endpoint may not be immediately available or in sync with files at the primary endpoint. So basically, for me to be able to enable the static website, I just need to go to this container here. So it says an Azure storage container has been created to host your static website. So I just go to this container here. Now I'm in the static website container. Now, what I can do is this, right? If I have any HTML file at all, anyone, right? Any HTML file at all, I can upload it and then I'm good to go. So I think I have a sample HTML file I can upload. So I mean, you can see I have an index.html file here, and I'm going to upload this. So let's see. So you can see it says what the upload is what successful. So you can see upload is successful, and you can see here the access tier, which is hot, and the blob type is the what blob, and you can see it says what the list state is what available. Now, what next? Now that I've uploaded the HTML file, what next? Oh, well, the next thing to do is to take your primary endpoint link, right, and then load it up. That's the next thing to do. So, I mean, if you remember the primary endpoint link, um, if you don't know where that is, you can still come back here. If you don't know where that is, just go to your storage here, go to your data management, I think. Yeah, data management, go to your static website, and then you will see it here. So this is your primary endpoint, right? This is your primary endpoint. So all you just need to do is to put that on another browser here and load this up. Now you can see that my site is up. You can see that my site is up, right? Now, there are some few changes I can do here, and to just let you know that is the storage account controlling this website, we can make some changes, right? We can make some changes. And the beautiful thing is that you can make the changes inside from the storage account itself. That's the beautiful thing. You can make the changes inside from the storage account itself. So what do I mean? So I'm going to go back to the storage account now. I'll go back to the container and I'll try to see if I can edit this. So you see here, there's a button called edit. And this is the script I have, right? Now, by the way, can you see this? Azure test on static website. If you take a look at the header here, you would also see the same. So what this is trying to tell you that it is this HTML file that is controlling this site. But nonetheless, let me show you some things, right? So let's say, for instance, I decide now to change the color. Let me change the base color. Initially we had white. So I can do this and add a base color here by the body, right? And what else can I do? I can do this. I can do something like this here, right? I'll put this here and I'll put this here, right? And I will just say something like this is a sample, some just basically something simple. Can just put something simple here and I'll say something like this, right? So I mean, I hope everyone is able to see what I'm doing. So basically, I'm just playing around with the HTML file, right? So that you can actually see how all of this work. So once I'm done with this, I can, maybe I should use, let me see, I'm trying to look at what would be the best color to use. Okay, maybe let me make use of blue. Let me just make sure blue. Let me just mention blue there, right? And then let me save my changes. Now look at, just by saving these changes and we do a refresh on the static website, you would see what is going to happen here. So you can see this is still serving us the previous content which we had, right? By the time I'm going to come here and do a refresh on this, you're going to see changes. So can you see we now have changes? You can see this is the changes which we just did now. You can see here it says Azure static website. This is a sample test on static websites, right? So, I mean, you can come here and change. Okay, let's say, for instance, we decided to make use of the color, the initial color, which you wanted to do, right? Okay, let me make use of the initial color here. So just come here and change this color to this, right? And I click on save, right? Once it's saved, all I need to do is to come back here again, right? And click on refresh. And voila, you can see now that, I mean, all of the changes I'm saving are directly updated, right? Now, one of the beautiful things you can do with this, right, is, in order not to expose the name of your storage account, all of those things. One of the beautiful things you can do with this is, if you have like some a custom domain name, if you have a custom domain name, what you can do is you can map this address to your custom domain name. And then maybe in my case now, I can just have say something like uchestaticwebsite.com, right? If I have a custom domain name that says uchestaticwebsite.com, I can map it to this primary endpoint. So every time I call uchestaticwebsite.com, it's going to load this page for me. A very wonderful and a beautiful use of something like this could be your digital CV. Say, for instance, you want to host your CV on, so that, I mean, every time people ask you, can I have your CV? All you just need to do is give them a link. So with this, you can actually build your CV, right? And it's going to be served here like a website. And you can see here, I'm not really doing anything major. All I'm just doing is, you know, um, all I'm just doing is basically creating a storage account and playing around with HTML. And of course, there are various sites you can go to understand what you need to do, where you need to do what, especially if you are making use of HTML. So I mean, I feel this is one beautiful thing that everyone can make use of. In fact, I would challenge you to go and build your CV making use of the static website feature on your storage account. I don't know how many of us will be willing to take on that challenge. If you'll be willing to take on that challenge, just type something on the chat screen and let me know. I mean, like I said, this is just as good as you know getting to understand how HTML works, and then manipulating everything you have on your um your HTML block here. And before you know it, you can have your CV good to go. All right. So at this point, I think I've covered the necessary sections and everything that has to do with um you're developing a solution using your storage account. And I would like to call, I don't know if anyone has any question regarding this. Yeah, does anyone have any question regarding this?
Wow, this is amazing. Yeah, what's an amazing teaching. Yeah, in fact, I practically opened my own portal and I was actually going through it. And for the first time, I think I came across and the encryption part, which talks about if you the infrastructure. Let me just go back to it again. Yeah, the part where you have enable infrastructure encryption. So I can see that that particular feature is just like a double layer of security for your storage, and which is that's quite amazing. Like it's my first
Exactly.
time of coming. I used to see it, but I don't usually click on it. But I think you've really opened our eyes this evening to see the benefit of this Azure storage, and I think just like what you said, and it you can host your website, because these days now I don't think people still print CV again. So paper yeah, yeah. So
Exactly.
yeah, so I think it's the best, is a good feature people can actually make use of. But I just have a question for you. Like,
Okay.
what's the funds implication for this? What's the cost if I want to probably like host my CV? I want to create my CV on the like, and I just want to leave it there for eternity. Like, what's the
Well,
yeah?
basically, Azure just for your storage account, I think there are minute charges for your
Mhm.
storage account. I don't think it's anything so expensive. But one thing you can do is to basically there's a what's the word? It's like a calculator that people mostly use. Azure has a calculator, right? To calculate,
Yeah.
okay, let's say you deploy a storage account, what would the cost be? All of those things. So you can actually make use of the Azure calculator to get the exact value of what that figure would be. At this point in time, I might not be able to provide you with that figure, but then you can actually make use of that Azure calculator to get that exact value, to understand or know what the cost implication would be for you to create your storage account. I think all you are doing is creating a storage account and uploading this HTML file, and I don't think it should be that expensive.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah, cool. Wow, that's quite amazing. So if you are in the comment section and you have any question, please start throwing your question to us, and definitely our speaker will definitely make justice to those questions. Please, if you have any question, please just throw. And this not for you to just listen. Like now you have the the theory section and also the practical section, and it's good you go through the materials you read, and but the practical are the key thing which we are going to face outside there, and which our speakers has actually make justice to it. He has opened the portal, showed us how to create this. It's not something we just talk and talk and talk and then we just go back. No, you practicalize it. We could see how to create this storage account, also how to create this static website, which is very important, very key. These are basic things that even in some interview when you go, they will just say, okay, just open the portal, create a storage account, just walk me through how to create the storage account. And if definitely you can do just something like this, you will definitely get that job. So if you have any question, wherever you are connecting from, please just put your question on the comment box. If you have any question for the speaker before we call it a day, don't forget that this is a study series and we have other ones coming again from next week. So make sure you don't miss this particular study. Don't miss this series at all. It is very important. And you can also, if you want to read ahead, you can also just go on your Google, just put it there. And I think there are materials you will get from Microsoft, which is going to help you. So by the time you now come, you can ask question when you are confused. The Azure Developer AZ204. So I think Microsoft has a lot of documentation. So if you have any question, please kindly just put your question in the comment box. And if you want to reach our speaker, you have any question, you have any concern, or you have any, you want him to assist you in any way, probably in your workplace or anywhere, just you can reach our speaker on LinkedIn. Just check on the comment box. You can click on that link on the comment box and just click on it and just make sure you follow him. Make sure you follow the speaker, and he will definitely he will be willing to assist you in any area you want to. So we are waiting. If you have any question, can you just put out your question?
So, I mean, I see the question from Habib, saying he loves the CV use case. And he's saying, so it's possible to map a custom domain name to the container that hosts the web file. So, yes, actually, what you're doing is mapping the custom domain name to the primary endpoint of that web container hosting your HTML file. So once you do that, you'll probably be saying, okay, probably you'll be going to habibyakubu.com. But what that would do would be to redirect habibyakubu.com to the primary storage endpoint of where you are hosting your HTML page or your static website. So I mean, that is absolutely possible.
Wow,
That's
that's
absolutely
good.
possible.
Yeah, yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
So for if while we're still waiting for some few questions, I think if I may ask, Promise, can you just if you can explain to us how do you handle the data backup? Let's say, for example, like you need to against disaster. So how do you back up this your information? So how do you handle that? Yeah.
Well, one of the things I can say is it depends on where your source generator data is, right? So, I mean, I know a lot of times virtual machines that run SQL database and all of those things, there are commands you can use to sync your database directly from your virtual machine into your container in your storage account, right?
Okay.
So your database will now be like a blob file, right? And for instance, if you want to also restore that database, you can also, there are some SQL commands you can use to point to the blob and say restore this database. You can put the name of the database and pinpoint it from the blob file. You understand? And by that, what it will do, it will generally just use the blob file to create a new database that had the previous information. So those
Wow.
are some things you can do as well.
Wow. Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
So if you have any question, please send your question to us. Let us know. Please put in the comment section. Send in your question. And if you are preparing for this exam, please make sure you visit the Microsoft Learn environment, and so that you can prepare very well for that exam. And if you have any question, just make sure you reach out to us or you reach out to the speaker on LinkedIn, and we'll definitely make justice to that question. Okay, so I think we are coming to a close to this evening series. We are rounding up, and I believe you have definitely gained something this evening. And make sure you stay tuned, and then we'll see you next week, Saturday, for the next topic. Thank you for connecting. Thank you. See you, and bye bye.